I used to talk to Mike before we were on teams. We were just Challenger solo queue players. He was a really big Nidalee player back then. He still is now.
So low! Looking for the spear, and he does hit it!
Well, I probably had a better win record against him, but even then, that's just so long ago, and that is just going to be a completely new game. Mechanically, he is a very consistent player, but his lack of voice is holding C9 back. Compared to Contractz, I offer my team a loud voice in-game.
You want to collapse on? We can collapse on top. Yes, sir.
Mike is really good in small skirmishes. He's probably the best rookie I've seen in a while.
Gotta keep going! Oh, he is going! MikeYeung is insane!
But coming into my first LCS split, I was also a super hyped rookie.
5 solo kills for Contractz! Ladies and gentlemen, your rookie of the split, Contractz.
MikeYeung has so much hype right now, so I just gotta kill the hype.
Let's go, 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 let's go.
Welcome to Week 7 of the North American League Championship Series. The teams facing off today need every win they can get if they want a chance at playoffs in just a few short weeks. First up, we have Contractz and Smoothie. They're going to be up against both MikeYeung and Zig. Across from them, Phoenix1 looking to pick up some wins after a disappointing 0-2 week last week, while Cloud9 also struggling to some degree. It's an important match for both teams as we're also getting a look at our leaderboards here. Wild Turtle topping the all-time regular season kills. Pirean closing in on that 1,000 mark. Jensen still topping the tables in KDA, even while C9 struggles. And Pirean, player of the game leader. But close behind, many people at 6. We'll see if anyone can reach him. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson. And somebody once told me that the world was going to roll me. But now I'm joined by the sharpest tool in the shed. I got Mark Zimmerman. So I feel a lot more at home and a lot safer with you here.
I was never around, sharp objects. My parents kept them away from me. I was in a completely dull shed. That's all they let me play with, nothing crazy.
And then you're a new guy now.
Yeah, I'm no longer playing with sharp objects. I just stand around here.
All right, well, coming into today, we've got teams fighting for some much-needed wins. It all starts with Contractz and Cloud9 opposite MikeYeung and Phoenix1, followed by Team Liquid looking to fight out of 10th versus Team Envy. Now, if we pull up the standings, we see with only 3 weeks left to go in the split, there's a surprising amount of volatility at the top of the standings. We've got 3 teams tied for first.
That's the big thing, is that we've seen a number of teams have their crack at the first place crown. Immortals was up there at the very beginning.
Along with Dignitas.
They dropped. CLG had their chance at it for a little bit. They had a surprising loss last week that leads to this 3-way tie situation where TSM finally finds their way to the top of the standings, and you see that they actually have a phenomenal game record. They've only dropped 7 compared to the other 2 teams at 11 and 12 losses respectively. So even though the match scores are close, it would seem to indicate that maybe TSM is the best team.
Right, you can cherry pick them out of those 3 as being maybe the best of the first place teams, but this is all to say that that lead has changed multiple times throughout the split. Still plenty of room for it to do so. But while we talk about those 3 teams, they're largely safe in terms of clinching a playoff spot. Got to win a couple more games to do it. So let's not concern ourselves with them. Let's concern ourselves with the other 3 slots and who's going to pick those up, join them in the postseason.
I think the big thing was Phoenix1 coming off that great Rift Rivals performance. Everyone was saying they're the team to watch out for making a late season run, but they had a horrible 0-2 weekend. Ryu asked to even get stepped down as Pirean gets traded back over. He'll be getting the start today, so that team seems to be in free fall. And then on the flip side, Dignitas was a team that had gone 0-4 in the last 2 weeks before last week, so everyone was ready to write them off. And then they have a phenomenal 2-0 week, and they did it largely off the back of some new picks, a very different look than we've seen out of the team in the previous performances.
A complete 180 for them in terms of the way that their split was heading with the 4-match loss streak that they had going into last week. They pick up the 2-0. They position themselves at that 7-5, so they're looking real solid. Similarly, Team Envy, let's talk about these guys. You mentioned how Pirean's traded back over to Phoenix1 means Niski is for sure their starter and only mid laner, and they've been finding success with him.
Yeah, and he had a great performance against C9 last week. One of the reasons that they were able to overtake them in the standings was this head-to-head matchup where, for the most part, Niski was left on an island versus Jensen, held up just fine against what people were calling one of the early season MVP candidates potentially. He had a great series overall, and it gave enough confidence for him to say, all right, we're moving forward with you the rest of the season, and Pirean, you're free to pursue other opportunities, gets traded back to P1 Phoenix1.
Of course, all of these teams have to deal with the many curveballs that we like to throw at them. The biggest one this week being patch 7.14, coming in a lot of changes, including the introduction of Kayn. We've already seen him in the EU LCS.
Yeah, I mean, Kayn is, of course, the cool thing that you hope to see a lot more of, but what you're going to see is lethality. I mean, that's the big one. Kayn is a champion that people are still kind of figuring out exactly how he works. Like you said, saw him once in the EU LCS, but there are some people who think, blue Kayn's not that strong, you have to get the red Kayn, and then it's a little bit beyond your control sometimes if you're able to get that exactly. And then what do you do with him? Teams still have to figure out how to play with him.
Yeah, of course, we saw the mechanic there where he gets to glide through walls. I think that will make for some of the most interesting elements of Kayn play in the North American LCS is just to see the kind of gank paths that, can develop from having that ability versus somebody like Cho'Gath. Not going to have any special gank paths with Cho'Gath, but he's still terrifying.
Yeah, Cho'Gath is super strong in this patch. Obviously, what they changed was his E, giving it that, taking it off a toggle ability into you press it once, you get the next 3 attacks that are empowered, has some bonus true damage, bonus % health damage on there now. And that's really terrifying because I was talking to FLICKR, someone who played him in the Challenger Series just a couple days ago, and he was saying he thought he was in a fine spot already with the ultimate change that came through a couple patches ago, and now with this E1 thrown on top.
Pushes him over the edge.
It pushes him a little bit over the edge, so really great laning phase, great in the jungle, very terrifying once he hits late game as well because he has that huge true damage spike on the ultimate.
Right, massive frontline who can still one-shot your ADC. That's something you want to avoid. We've seen him hit the ban list even in Europe as well as being played to success. You did briefly hit Duskblade, but lethality is coming back. Let's talk about why that is.
So the big change was that they took lethality and it used to scale off your opponent's level when you were hitting them. Now it just scales off your own level. So if you're a solo lane champion like a Jace, this is a big buff for you, as well as the fact that Duskblade itself got a mini rework. They changed the build path with it and some of the stats that comes with it. The big thing was that the passive was very, very strong. It got hotfixed a little bit, but...
and they are playing on the hotfix here in the North American LCS. It's good to make that distinction.
Yeah, so people were mathing it out around 30 less damage at level 9, which is around when you're often picking this item up. So it is a reasonable hotfix, but at the end of the day, the item is still super strong. The lethality changes themselves make it so you might see more Kha'Zix in the jungle, you might see more Jhin Varsa on the bot lane, and that Jace pick I already hit
But
on.
this excites me because we're talking about a tank, right, coming into the meta, being one of the strongest junglers, but we're also talking about assassins, and so it's going to be very fun to see what where teams put their priority. Are they going to go more heavy into the tanks, or are they going to go more heavy into the assassins? Maybe we see Zeds, Talons come back. Who knows, right? Alongside, as you mentioned, the Kha'Zix jungle could return.
That's the thing, is a lot of these AD carry, AD lethality users are people who don't want to have to deal with a lot of frontliners, and as the junglers start getting more and more powerful as tanks, you might actually see it's difficult to find an opportunity to pick something like a Talon, you said, or a Zed, or someone else you might want to spike early on with this new lethality item.
Now we'll see which teams best adapt to the patch as we send it over to our casters to get us into the games.
Thanks, Dash. Hello, I'm Julian Pastry Timeco, and casting alongside me is the Druid, who managed to pull 4 swipes in Arena. Aiden Zayat Moon, you Luxac.
I told our writer about that, and he's just like, I'm going to put that right in.
Well,
so, yes, I did. Went 12 wins.
Look what happens. Teams are loading up for our first series as Phoenix1 take on Cloud9. And of course, the big news coming into this match is that Pirean transferring from Envy and returning to Phoenix1 in the mid lane.
Yeah, the last year he actually spent with Phoenix1 kind of, being the understudy to Ryu, but Ryu has taken a step down, said that in his 5-year career, he just had a 2-year-long stretch where he didn't really get a break, so he was getting burnt out and decided to step down. So Pirean will actually be the starter here for them, and I feel like this is a huge test for this guy, going up against Jensen in the mid lane, who's been playing particularly well this split. But for Phoenix1 as a whole, they're 3 matches away from a playoff spot, and they're up against Cloud9, who is currently in 6th place, and they are the barrier of entry into the postseason. So winning today prevents that barrier from moving even further away from Phoenix1 and possibly out of their reach. So there's a lot of pressure on this team, especially MikeYeung, who kind of came in and was responsible for turning around their season. Now there's even more pressure on the rookie to perform up against C9.
And we'll see if he can match up against Contractz, our spring rookie of the split, and another jungler who was supported in his first split by a lot of hype.
Yeah, saying he wants to kill that hype. And that's why I'm looking at this jungle matchup in particular here. A lot of them are 1st or 2nd in their stats. And the big thing for me is last week, where both teams had a 1 game and 4 losses in terms of their record, these junglers actually had above 80% kill participation, which is astounding for losses, and that means nothing really happened without these 2 being involved. So I'm looking at these 2 guys, Contractz and MikeYeung, to be the early game facilitators. Whoever gets the edge up over the other will likely put the ball in their team's court. And for Cloud9 in particular, right now they need that because they're sitting at a 6-6 record. They have lost the last 3 matches, and with aspirations to be a first-place team and to change their fortunes in the finals, you can't be dropping that many matches at this point in the split.
Certainly cannot. And with that, we are going to check out the starting lineups. On the blue side, it's Cloud9. We're going to try and turn things around. In the top lane starting today, it is Impact. In the jungle, former rookie Contractz. Their mid laner Jensen, bot Sneaky, support Smoothie, and coach Reapid.
And that means starting off on the red side will be Phoenix1. We got the teams color-coded today. Top lane will be Zig, MikeYeung in the jungle, Pirean starting in mid, Arrow in bot with Xpecial still waiting for that high five and support.
I feel like poor Xpecial is going to be waiting a long time.
Yeah, I like how Arrow's like this as well, so it's almost like, give me a high five. It's like, nah.
I feel like at some point we can match them up and make them high-five each other.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really close, too. Or he's giving him a pat on the back, right? It's like, good job in lane as I roam all the time.
That makes sense because, yes, Xpecial has actually been leaving bottom lane a lot, and that is where a lot of the success from Phoenix1 has come, is Xpecial is kind of leaving, roaming, and then pressuring that mid lane. Of course, it was Ryu before that he was trying to get ahead. Pirean, a more enabling, supportive style of mid lane. Yes, can carry, does have big moments, but this team should look quite a bit different as far as Xpecial leaving and the pressure they have in the mid lane. So we'll have to see what happens here, but the first test begins for P1 up against C9 in Champ Select. C9 going to ban away LeBlanc as their first one, and then Zach, kind of the obvious red side ban there for Phoenix1, as Nidalee quickly joins the pack there for C9. No Nidalee for MikeYeung.
Yep, and this is the thing too, is we've kind of moved towards a half tank, half not tank jungle where you can play the Maokai, Cho'Gath, Sejuani in jungle. They're top tier right now. They're actually some of the most played junglers this week. And then you can kind of slide those things like Kha'Zix or Nidalee in there and still play them because they're just so potent early game and can really devastate the tanks in the jungle, as well as Gragas. I think Gragas is actually kind of that mixture, the most picked right now in terms of people making the transition.
Well, 2 support bans actually going to change it up here. Blitzcrank and Thresh ban 1 apiece for the sides, but there's that Gragas you mentioned. Obviously a good flex pick, but certainly a very strong and popular jungler. So kind of a lot of interesting things happening here in Champs. Like already the patch feels like it's moving some things around. First pick, Caitlyn, though, is the big one. Sneaky has yet to lose on the champion.
Yeah, so you go back to Caitlyn last patch kind of being really powerful. She did get a nerf in her attack speed growth stat of 2% instead of 4%. So she doesn't scale as crazy, but in terms of overall DPS loss, it's not incredibly high. But I'm surprised that Phoenix1 did not go with Kalista here and went with the Jhin instead for Arrow, because Kalista is something they were playing, and it was very good for them last week.
Yeah, well, there's actually the Instalock Cho'Gath as well. So already that pick we expected, also picked up here by P1. We've seen it jungle already. We've seen it top lane already around the world. So we'll have to see exactly where P1 want to put it. But both MikeYeung and Zig are kind of solo queue fiends as players. They always kind of on top of the innovation. So no surprise to me that they're already picking this up.
I like that you said solo queue fiends, constantly grinding away. The Maokai, though, getting locked in is a flex pick. So is the Cho'Gath. That's the thing, is you can run these guys in jungle or top. So when you pick them in this phase and you don't pick your jungler or top laner in both, you get a lot of power in the second ban phase, because people will take things like maybe Sejuani away, maybe ban a top laner as well, because these are so flexible and can be played in multiple roles.
Well, Maokai as the pick, but looks like Bard coming through as the next one there for C9 to shore up that duo. There is the playmaker for Smoothie with Blitz and Thresh banned. It makes sense that C9 still want a playmaker, but going towards Bard instead of Rakan's kind of an interesting shift.
Well, also, I think Braum right now is the most played support this week on 7-14 so far, and I'm surprised it wasn't taken here, because I feel like Xpecial would jump on that very quickly, but with a Jhin, it's not as crazy because it's very hard to proc your passive with the fixed attack speed on him. And this is interesting as well, because this has been happening more and more where you pick your mid laner, third pick on red side, and then you ban mid lanes away.
It's also a super solid pick for Pirean, who is, of course, having his debut match on P1 versus Jensen for this match. And this is far and away his best pick. It's most successful by a lot.
I'm a little scared, though, because you have to ban, I believe, Cassiopeia, Orianna, and Syndra away from Jensen in this situation, because Cassio plays really well into Taliyah. You can also play the Syndra into it, and then Jensen just has the Orianna as his baseline favorite champion to play in neutral situations. And you just don't have enough bans. I did the math.
That was 3 champions, and they do have 2 bans. So unless Cloud9 does them a favor, you're right. That is not enough to ban out all of the champions that Jensen could play. Syndra, though, will start things off for P1. So like you said, picking that mid laner last in this phase and then starting to protect that pick. On the other side for C9, kind of continuing to hammer the bot side here, banning away Zyra from Xpecial. And you did mention already, Braum is kind of the obvious pick. That's he's actually Xpecial's most played support this split. He's played a lot of Braum, a lot of Thresh, and then a drops dramatically from there.
Exactly. 3 games Tom Kench, 1 on Morgana, but then otherwise 12 Braum, 9 Thresh. So Xpecial, I'm surprised he hasn't gone for the Braum yet. I expect that to be another ban from them. And they actually leave a decent amount up here for Jensen to kind of pick from. And I feel like the Orianna jumps out to me, because when you have a Caitlyn, just go ahead and put the Orianna ball on her when you get to that late game and siege turrets. And you have a Maokai who can help with the ball delivery. There's a lot of engage from the Maokai ultimate, and it would be great follow-up to have that ball.
Yeah, and you can see Lucian actually the other ban there for P1, which is kind of the other good aggressive pick that Jensen has already shown he can play and is willing to play into this matchup. Last ban there is Gnar, though, actually, for C9. So Braum will be open here for Xpecial. Looks like Cloud9 feared a potential top laner, but like you said already, the early flexibility of Cho'Gath means that could be potentially a wasted ban.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you always have to throw those bans at the possibility that it's there. I don't blame them for that, but it's better to have that happen, because if you're willing to, if you're thinking like, oh, I'll pick Renekton here, or the Maokai is going top, the Gnar is a pretty good neutral pick into whatever you want to play top lane.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right, so new stuff already. There's Janna actually for, I assume Xpecial, unless something real nutty's happening. But that is a huge departure for Xpecial as far as what he's been playing.
So the way that I view, I'm going to talk about Cho'Gath first for this.
Okay.
Cho'Gath is, he's not like an engaged support like, or engaged jungler like Maokai or even the Sejuani with the long range engage. Cho'Gath is more of, you can't run through this guy to dive backline. He has multiple slows, a silence, and it's very difficult to get past him. Janna adds to that where you have backline threats like this, or backliners who are big threats like Jhin and Taliyah. You're just trying to keep them safe here. So Phoenix1, their last pick, has to have engage on it. The Kled might be what they do here, is they might flex that Cho'Gath's jungle and have a Kled top so they have a way to engage and force fights. Otherwise, oh my
God, locked it in. All right, well, there's Orianna, which is what we expected for Jensen, but his first appearance in the LCS, Kayn, is locked in for C9.
I don't even know where this is going here. It could go top for Impact. I expect it to be Contractz, and Impact playing Maokai. The guy's back in the meta, you know? Impact, of course, he's going to start for them right now and play that champion. I assume this Kayn is going into the jungle, but good lord, I did not expect to see Kayn that quickly. We saw it one time in the European LCS. It had a good scoreline, but it ended up losing the game, and that's kind of the theme right now of Kayn is, sure, he has a really good early game, has some good damage in that part where he can duel the junglers level like 3 onward, but he falls off because of his lack of CC, and that's why people are going for the Darken, for the Rost form, because it has a knock-up on it. Otherwise, he's completely lacking utility.
Well, last pick is Kha'Zix, so flexing that Cho up towards the top lane, and we expected a pretty high-octane jungle matchup between Contractz and MikeYeung. Well, that's exactly what we're going to get here with 2 effective AD assassin-like champions coming out of the jungle.
This is going to be great. The Duskblade changes have been fantastic. The Kha'Zix runs Storm Raider Surge. Duskblade, when you hit that point, helps you reach that Storm Raider Surge off of a single auto attack, and then you rush people down. If Kha'Zix hits you once, he's going to be able to kill you and chase you down in the majority of situations.
So Zareen, how much experience do you have with Kayn?
I have a decent amount at this point, watching it lose. So
I did see you earlier today deliver some beatdown against top lane Kayn, but it is from the jungle this time for Contractz. Well, a very exciting start here to 7-14. We're going to get tanks, we're going to get Kayn, and we're probably going to see at least 1 Duskblade, and I'm guessing, I think, a few more than that. So
yeah,
all those changes we alluded to, we'll likely get all that and more here as we start off the series.
Yeah, there's a lot of great, like, you could see 7-14 kind of encapsulated here. Caitlyn's still good. You have Jhin, who will most likely rush the lethality and get the Duskblade, which can set up his own W. The 99% slow for a quarter second, auto attack W, you're going to get that route.
Alrighty then, well, we'll have to be excited about how moving into this one. We're going to learn a lot this first game here.
Oh, I'm so ready for this. Cloud9, you know, right now they have a decent amount of engage. They have great siege potential with this composition. And then on the other side, P1, if you're diving them, it's a problem. But then it's kind of arrow taking pot shots and trying to pick people off. There's a decent amount of pick and roam potential here from having MikeYeung on the Kha'Zix as well as Pirean on the Taliyah. And Pirean playing that kind of comfort champion form that we saw him play on Envy that helped them close games out by turret sieging and like throwing the Weaver's wall down. We'll see what he's able to do here up against Jensen on what if, I would call it, honestly, like a Jensen signature champion at this point when he got to play Orianna like 12 times in a row last split, because it's just comfort for him. When C9 are in a slump, they'll pick the Orianna for him, and this was a great situation to give him one of those picks and counter Pirean in the mid lane.
I mean, I was actually just thinking, like, we haven't seen Kayn in the NALCS yet. There's a lot of really funky stuff you might be able to do with Orianna plus Kayn if you can walk around a couple walls. But we'll see what happens. Everyone fanning out nice and defensively as we're here on the Summoner's Rift, and a lot to look forward to. We're only a minute into the games, Irene.
Yeah, and I'm already like popping up all these different windows on my computer.
And
Like,
what
wait
did
a
Kayn do?
second. Yeah, because I see the Thunderlord's decree from MikeYeung when almost all the Kha'Zix I have been seeing both in professional play on 7-14 and in solo queue have been running Storm Raider Surge because the auto attack plus your passive plus the fact that the Duskblade does an extra 180 damage when you first buy it makes it so Storm Raider Surge instantly goes off and you're able to chase people down and get those follow-up attacks and Qs. So this is strange for MikeYeung. He's just looking for some burst, but then also Contractz on the other side. The Fervor is a little interesting as well. I'm wondering if that has been kind of the primary one that we've seeing here.
Well, looks like a super leash here on the bottom side for Contractz. Bit of help from Maokai with a sapling. It was a cap, but trust me, it's a sapling. And MikeYeung also doing a similar route, but just the Raptors being taken down, so no extra help from his bottom half of the map. That will, of course, mean Sneaky and Smoothie get here a little late, but not really delayed too much as far as losing any minions. And Contractz will be off to the races, straight to blue buff after clearing those early camps.
Yeah, and look at that. Impact has actually set him up with saplings on multiple camps there. And that just helps so much because the sapling level 1 does somewhere between 450 to 600 magic damage to the camps, depending on which camp it is in the magic resist.
So just to remind you, Super Leash usually comes 20 seconds after this point.
Exactly.
He's level 3 at 225, maybe looking top lane.
And this will be Impact. Did he take W? He's going to have Q and E.
Straight to the wall. Zig's like, oh, where did this guy come from? Contractz
Here's the
gonna
W.
stick out on this. Will be first blood. Contractz gonna grab it.
Yeah, it looked like Impact didn't show that he had taken an ability there, the Q or the W, and just held it, used the saplings, and then went for the W there for the root. Zig didn't blow his teleport, but that was a really early gank. And I have to say, there's so much damn power right now in Maokai saplings helping a jungler, and then also the bottom lane leash. Being blue side has this gigantic advantage of when you start Raptors, your bottom lane is there to do the super leash. It's not the same if you're playing on the red side of the map.
And we had the super duper leash this time around with multiple saplings being expended. Contractz just gonna spin and then walk through a wall. That seems fair. Let's watch this gank again.
Yeah, a lot of mobility on the Kayn, so he's able to actually, walk through walls and continue his gank path, but doesn't want to walk through the wall there. It gives an indicator on the wall if the person's going through, so he waits, and then he's in a position where he can just get the red buff off. Even if Zig flashes at that point, the W is there, so they completely cover those options. And that's a team effort there, too. They set that up with the fact that Impact gave him so many saplings to get that super leash.
Yep, took everyone but Jensen, who's just comfortably farming against Pirean right now. And that's kind of what's expected in that mid lane matchup. Back on the bottom side, though, very even also. Are able to hold up well, but Xpecial not going to have the same roaming presence that we have seen on champions like his Thresh and his Braum. So kind of curious to see how that 2v2 develops as Impact with that early assist gold going to return to lane with some boots and a Ruby Crystal adding to that Doran's ring. So early TP back. Zig already expended his after going down.
Yeah, and like I had said about the Phoenix1 composition early, the whole team is kind of built to peel for these backliners. And so the Janna can kind of slot in here where the ancient coin line got changed to being when it completes, it's no longer a skill point. It's 8% movement towards that target. And so Janna has the passive of 8% movement speed when her team is walking towards her. Then she'll have another 8% because of the fact that the ancient coin line will upgrade eventually. So people running towards her will be super fast, so you can kind of get away from something like the Kayn in that mid game.
Build your own captains and chance.
Yes.
I do miss boot and chance.
The boots, man.
Looks like Sneaky and Smoothie getting this lane pushing though, like I said. Oh, great binding there actually from Smoothie. Gonna lock down some damage. Nice shield in response from Xpecial. We'll keep that damage minimized, but there's a reason Sneaky is undefeated on Caitlyn with 4 games. Partly because Caitlyn was insanely strong in the early part of the split, but still a really solid AD.
And I mean, this is great for Sneaky, who had, honestly, I think one of his worst weeks ever last week. And we've almost never pointed at Sneaky as being like a weak link on the team. But last week was one of the weeks that you could and say, hey, he was very much so underperforming and got kind of destroyed in lane phase multiple times. So giving him the Caitlyn first pick and allowing him to have that power and pressure in bottom lane, it's something that they're hoping yields some results here.
Well, good pressure from Jensen onto Pirean, but he's backing off anyway. Smoothie did enter mid lane for a potential roam, but wasn't able to cancel Pirean's back, who's now going to return to lane with a lost chapter finish. Jensen, though, should reverse that wave, get it pushing, and likely take his own back as Zig also going to look for a recall.
Yeah, we're seeing those first backs come out here. Pirean got to give his, and now on the bottom side, Arrow got the serrated Dirk, which got changed. And actually, here, look at the damage.
Nice down. That could be another kill. Smoothie flashed it in. Shield's enough. Xpecial
right,
stays alive.
He's all right. That's the flash, traded for flash, and then the And yeah, then there's the Ignite. That's it. Nothing else blown in that trade. But yeah, the serrated Dirk, and now he'll be able to CS a little bit under turret. We'll see if Arrow's able to kind of get something back here in terms of just farming. Because right now, Sneaky has it back, sitting on BF Sword Gold and a little bit more.
Well, 36 HP was what Xpecial had, but gets away with enough to live, so nothing too crazy, barely single digits.
Yeah, and now you have to really ward up that bottom side of the map because that's a very easy gank to go for on that Bard. Well, I would expect MikeYeung to try and make a visit over there and get something on the bottom side of the map soon. His top side has been completely warded up by Contractz, who went in and used the smite that we're always seeing, the smite stone, the tracker's knife. Constantly. It was actually funny. Somebody asked me last week, it's like, why do you, I think it was Captain Flowers, like, why do you buy that in every single solo queue game? I'm like, if I don't buy it, I feel like the map is completely dark. And he's like, well, why don't you just buy like Blue Smite, you know, and Garner or something? It's like, no, I'm not going to do that because you put your whole team at a disadvantage most of the time, unless you're like dueling the enemy jungler. So in almost every situation, you'll see the tracker's knife.
Yes. It is important to couch all things Captain Flowers says. That comes from a very specific perspective
Garner.
from the jungle. But of course, in pro play are basically mandatory
Yeah.
to make sure you have this tracker's knife. And I think all the early pressure that Contractz was able to exude on the map has just caused so many issues for MikeYeung. He's just so behind in tempo after that early super leak. So the nice ult from Jensen could turn it back around onto Pirean. Damage is there. Jensen looking for the
Another
solo kill. With MikeYeung around the other side. Jensen can now ghost himself out of the way, but Ghost burnt, flash save. Jensen doesn't overextend.
Yeah, that was actually really well played from Jensen's side because he didn't go forward, kind of knowing MikeYeung was on that side of the map with the wards that were placed and that he could be over there. So he was respecting it and seeing him there. So it was really well done. Because yeah, so many people would just be out for blood at that point.
I would be dead. Absolutely, I would be dead as Contractz.
Even if you saw the Kha'Zix there.
Well, that's cute. Contractz actually going to chill out in the wall for a little bit. Jensen going to get the blue buff away from P1. Nice advantage after he's able to pressure out that mid laner. And like I said, I mean, Contractz, given how well the game started for him, is just, I think, kept MikeYeung's pressure down so significantly because of how far ahead Kayn started in the early jungle.
Yeah. Now we'll see if he's actually able to get something on this bottom side here. And you can see in the last week, even though it was a 1-4 record in terms of games, kill participation for MikeYeung early was very high, but not much happened for the team. Overall, though, very close in how many kills they had participated in.
Maybe just covering for Contractz there, I think, more than anything else. Who's going to steal away that Grot. MikeYeung did take the blue away, so he has one. They won't lose both their blues, but Pirean will not get one due to all that pressure. And MikeYeung now able to kind of run Contractz out of the jungle. Good stun there from Smoothie landing in onto Xpecial, but just some damage poking.
Yeah. Contractz is actually very ahead in tempo right now, and he doesn't have a jungle to clear. Whereas on the other side, he just got spotted. But did they see it?
Yeah.
They saw it. They saw it.
Just barely. There's the ace in the hole into Xpecial. He's going to be the dive target through the portal. We go. Contractz planning the slow. Immunes himself using the Umbral Trespass in onto Xpecial. Damage coming through. Xpecial's got nowhere good to run, and Contractz going to grab kill number 2.
Yep. Doesn't blow anything there like the exhaust. In mid lane, though, MikeYeung.
Oh, Jensen with so much pressure. Jensen's going to try and get that solo kill, but MikeYeung looking for the assassination. Everybody moving out. There's the route. MikeYeung nabs Jensen.
And there's the wall as well, just to cut off Jensen, just in case. But that's going to be that bottom turret going down because of the 3-man pressure there. And they've been able to control MikeYeung. Contractz with the early kill on the top side, was able to get a tracker's knife a little earlier than you would expect, went to the top side, warded it out for MikeYeung, and then because he counter jungled the bottom side, MikeYeung's either wasting time or he's on that top side jungle. So really played to that, and they know that MikeYeung has to play to the top side with his red buff coming up.
I think does well, though, to pressure this mid lane, although we actually are going to watch the very creative dive here from C9 in the bot lane.
Yeah, they saw MikeYeung on the Wolves, and he's just going back into mid lane, and then ulti comes through, Arrowhead just backed. It's not a Kayn-specific gank, but it's one that definitely helps Contractz out here, and I am very curious to see what he goes for here, the Shadow Assassin or if he goes for Ross, because there's multiple opinions based on the game. Right here, MikeYeung comes out, the Evolved Claws, Arrow helps out a little bit, everybody was helping.
Yeah, Pirean thankfully stays alive. Does have to burn his flash, but Jensen extended his also, trying to get the kill. Again, nice for MikeYeung to kind of find an answer back in one of the lanes, given how much control Contractz and Cloud9 had over the map. But Jensen Still certainly pressuring Pirean. That assist goal is going to be nice for him, but Jensen will still feel, even if not ahead, and now C9 can move their pressure to this mid lane.
Yeah, but they don't have control of the side. Here comes Cho'Gath in. If they overextend, there's a possibility.
Up underneath as well. Shockwave there. Sneaky gets an easy kill, and Arrow forced to flash away. Going to get ace in the hole and taken down. Maybe the Ignite is enough for Smoothie able to get it. Cho'Gath, though, roaming down, takes down Sneaky. It's actually MikeYeung that gets kill credit there. Maokai TPing late, Impact decides to cancel.
Yeah, Impact just keeps pushing up top, gets that wave pressure, and Zig had roamed down, but that's as soon as Cloud9 had all just kind of gotten together and decided to go for that dive, so it was the same timing, even though Zig wasn't really spotted with all those control wards on the top side. He did get a kill back, though.
Well, another nice bit of playmaking for C9. Getting some kills there in the mid lane, and now transitioning over to this Dragon. Smoothie able to start that off, and Contractz going to roam down and should make short work of this with P1 all off, resetting. Impact even rotating down just in case he needs to be there, but got some pressure into that top lane as well. So P1 doing a nice job trading kills here and there, but Cloud9 still up about 2,500 gold, and now a Mountain Drake as they take this one away. Xpecial is going to be here in time to spot it. No smite for a couple seconds here for Contractz, but this will be a pretty easy one to take down. Does get it, and then takes the portal out.
Yep. So the portal set up, and even then it wouldn't matter. He's just going out. Anyway, we'll see here. Arrow is setting up as well. Yeah, they're really setting up a dive here, but Pirean just gets ultied by Smoothie, the setup here, and this is the combo I was looking for in Champ Select. Oh, just a disgusting shockwave there, and it was another reason that the Orianna was expected to come through for Jensen. Just that champion is so known for now at this point. There's a decent amount that he's known for, but the Orianna just has control.
Well, Sneaky unfortunately got rooted near the turret, so that was enough to take him down. No, not going to deter his pressure as Cloud9 moving up towards this top half of the map, looking to siege down the turret. Bottom side looks like Chop for Impact. A three-man Root's going to maybe save the day, and the turret immunes again. Now 4v1 for Impact. He's trying to get away. MikeYeung looking to do what he can, but an amazing knockback from Impact. He's going to keep the play going. He finally dies to MikeYeung, but C9 already ahead on tempo.
Yeah, this is like some old school Impact from last year where he would just soak all of the pressure. It's like, you can't get anything from this guy. It took forever for them to actually get something from him, and they blew multiple summoner spells to do so.
Well, C9 take the turret, now going to take some extra jungle out of the way. Also, Contractz able to pick up this camp, walk through, and now portal out. Like you said, a lot of mobility. Is that just straight up starting the Rift Herald?
Yeah, once Kayn is ahead of you, it actually feels really bad to play against him as a jungler because he just ignores walls, right? Your normal kind of paths that you would get ganked from in your own jungle is kind of up in the air. And that's what I feel like for Kayn is he's less so of like a big lane ganker, but once he gets ahead of the enemy jungler, he just invades the jungle and he's like a jungle ganker. He really thrives in those situations where he can control a quadrant of the jungle, bully the enemy jungler out of it, and then be able to make ganks happen from there. So he's not like a great mid lane ganker or anything like that. I feel like he just picks a quadrant, sticks to it, says, this is mine now, pushes the enemy jungle out when he has an advantage, and then is able to just kind of do what he wants.
Jensen in a 1v3 right now, but Smoothie behind him, able to maybe save him, dodges around the rest of them as Smoothie walking through some of that minefield, going to portal out to safety as P1's pressure nets him not too much. Bottom turret also stayed very healthy, so Cloud9 well ahead on total objectives. 2 turrets to nothing's causing a number of headaches here for Phoenix1 in this early game.
Yeah, and they don't really have much to force the issue either. Once they're behind, the enemy team will just kind of siege, put down their Caitlyn traps, Orianna ball, wave clear, and their engage tool is Arrow's ultimate, as well as just having Pirean set up a wall, and it's not that much. Those are ultimates that require a decent cooldown. And now they're going to lose their mid lane turret off this Rift Herald and just the sieging of this team.
Perfect timing there for C9. Waves coming in. Smoothie gets the ulti down. Nabs one. It's Xpecial as Maokai ulti. He's going to time it in with a Bard stasis. Not quite enough. Xpecial finally gets caught on the end. The ace in the hole there. The shockwave gets him a kill. The Rift Herald still going, charging into the turret, into the tier 2. P1 looking to fight a 4v5. 4v6. Rift Herald dies. Still 4v5.
Yeah, Zig walks up. Not really anything you can do there. And yeah, the engage, the wall from Maokai that comes out, the root, the follow-up.
Oh, Contractz.
He went inside of him.
Press button into Arrow, damages there as the burst moves out. Contractz, he's going to take a few hits, but manages to walk out of the way. Burns his flash to get out, but now going to just steal away the road buff. C9 just with too much pressure still as P1 constantly reacting in these first 15 minutes.
Yeah, and Contractz has been playing this Kayn incredibly well. I feel like he's such a good early game snowballer, like I was saying in Champion Select, but he falls off. He hasn't even like evolved at this point or chosen a path. He may do it on his back here.
I was going to say, Zyrene, It's not even his final form. Oh boy. See where he goes next. As Zig down into the bottom side turret. Good stack of minions helping out. Oh, not yet. We'll have to wait. Remember, you can only evolve in the fountain, I believe.
Yes,
So.
only in the fountain. And if you get enough orbs, and he's been ganking pretty heavily, but he hasn't really done enough damage to champions at this point. But they passively tick up as the game goes. You know what? Would it be the ultimate VM if you never change forms as Kayn?
We were talking about this just before the broadcast. That feels like some sort of achievement if you win a game staying like base level Kayn. Maybe Contractz goes for it here. I don't think so, given that the margin in this game are still pretty close. C9 only up 3,000 gold, which is a healthy lead, Zyrene, but I don't think that's a 20-minute Baron, never evolve your Kayn kind of game.
Yeah. Let's see, this isn't even his final form. I'm just really waiting to see which it is.
There's so much
What, I'm like, Contractz? Are you gonna ever?
Maybe he doesn't need to. I don't know. Look, doing just fine right now as P1 still responding again.
You know what the funny thing is? I think this might actually be a Shadow Assassin game.
Maybe.
Because Shadow Assassin does a large amount of damage with the W as well as the just auto attacks onto squishy targets. And there's 3 to 4 squishy people on Phoenix1. Only one person really going to build resistances or have enough max HP for you to really want to go for the Dark Inform here. This is maybe a Shadow Assassin game for Contractz, but unsure.
And I think this is probably a good time as Cena kind of readying up the next push to highlight some of the differences between the two. I think at a very broad level, Dark Inform Kayn is more of a bruiser, and Shadow Assassin Kayn is more of an assassin. That's pretty easy.
Exactly. Quick summary there. One gives you a lot of life steal whenever you use abilities. Kind of spell vamp, I guess, would be the term. And the other one gives you bonus magic damage on hit. And Contractz took the Fervor, so I'm assuming that he's going for a more auto attack based kind of play style as opposed to just throwing out the spells.
Yeah, looks like Warrior Black Cleaver is going to be the first initial item. Smoothie lines up an ulti after C9 take the tier 2 in mid. Contractz spinning around. Going to have to pass back through a wall to safety. TP in, although right onto it as Impact lands at the ultimate, thinking of flash forward into it, but he's still pretty tanky. Maybe not enough though, as Cena still just pummeling damage into Phoenix1. MikeYeung, he wanted the flank, but he couldn't find it. Everyone going to stay alive.
Yep. Mid lane priority for Cloud9, and they're just going to send 2 to 3 people to go do the Dragon right now. No Baron on the table for 1:50. And Cloud9, really, this is kind of the tempo you were expecting to see from this team when they came back from Rift Rivals, kind of seeing how the other North American teams like Phoenix1 and TSM had done there against the European teams. Just early pressure. And Contractz on this Kayn, I mean, Kayn has only been enabled for, I would say, 6 days is when the announcement was made that he would be allowed to be played right now. And so Contractz has put in the work, and a lot of people don't even know what this champion does and have played against it enough. And when you have to play against it as a whole team, you definitely have a lot of learning to do. And this is kind of a big leg up for Cloud9 right now if they're able to exploit this.
All right, so all cool spins aside.
All right.
Contractz? He's teasing us.
He's sticking around for it. There's a few seconds on whichever form he wants.
It's like he knows we're watching him.
What you doing? All right. Oh, it's Rust.
Alrighty, so like you said, kind of more of that fighter, bruiser style champion. A lot more lifesteal. Small knock-up on the W now.
Yeah, percent HP on the ultimate as well as the Q. Now has percent HP. Heals for a lot of the damage that he deals. And then that 1 second knock-up on the W is really why people take it. Yeah, mostly that. I would say like the lifesteal is super good too because he's squishy otherwise. But yeah, definitely the knock-up and having some form of utility. Otherwise, he's just kind of like a glorified Kha'Zix without stealth. It's like just purely damage abilities.
And I think, you know, kind of the reason the early consensus was that this seemed to be the form that was likely going to get played in competitive. Just feels a bit more robust, and you can certainly do a lot more team play. I mean, if he has to dive in with his Maokai with an Orianna ball on top of him, he's going to need to, you know, live longer than a few seconds.
Exactly, and you get to make more mistakes, right? It's why people build tanky in the jungle after they build their first few items. You can make way more mistakes. You don't have to have perfect play the entire time.
Well, Contract's going to be okay. Ult from Smoothie misses Pirean for the first time in the game. But not a huge overextension. C9 just again throw out the ultimate, relatively non-committal. No need to follow up, and they'll back off towards the Baron pit.
trying to get mid priority over the wall, though.
Impact, Flash W win, that's going to knock somebody back. Rule forever, Pirean, goodbye. The ulti's going to strangle up everybody else. Xpecial tries to disengage. The shockwave is going to miss as P1 flash out of the way, but Cloud9 again find the pick.
This Maokai is just ridiculously strong. Like, it's impacts Maokai first and foremost, but Maokai in general, the saplings he gave at level 1 for Contractz, the way he helped the gank with the gank assist in the top lane, and then these disgusting multi-man root ultimates that are just creating a gigantic wall of zoning, but also creating pressure.
Contractz got the red buff, now going to trespass into MikeYeung. MikeYeung might get assassinated here. Looks him Contractz, massive play, no in onto arrows. Cloud9 pick it up again, and Contractz, he dove through the wall looking for blood.
And you have to figure out, playing against Kayn, just how much he's going to heal off of his ultimate, which double dips on his passive, and it itself heals him for a percent of max HP. It's ridiculous how much he can get back, but now that he's ahead, it just looks kind of hard to shut him down. You're going to need an Executioner's Calling to deal with that.
And that's a swift Baron for Cloud9, barely over the 21-minute mark. And they're able to pick that up after picking off a few stragglers in the jungle.
Man, Smoothie tweeted about how excited he was for this week because of the fact that he's going to be able to, show all the improvement that's happened with the team. But, yeah, Contractz with the smite, gets some of that HP back, gets the red buff as well, adding insult to injury, and then picking up the kills and walking away about half HP there.
I mean, it's just an insane amount of mobility in this comp.
He's got a BF sword now too, so maybe Guardian Angel next for him here. So he can really go for those dives.
We have seen this from a lot of the more aggressive AD junglers. I mean, Lee Sin often builds this one ahead, so I kind of like the thinking here from Contractz, saying, I'm 3-0-3. We're going to try and end this game in the next 10 minutes. I'm just going to try and snowball.
And they're trying to focus him down as well, and they're going to need like an Executioner's Calling or an Ignite or something, which they don't have, to kind of cut through all of that spell vamp, because I believe it's somewhere from when you are level 1, it's like 23%, and then it's like 40 plus.
They found two. Contractz again lining it up. There's a great knock-up on an arrow, followed in by Smoothie in the stun and arrow. Just going to get taken down. Sneaky able to find the assassination. Another great flanking. Maokai out finds MikeYeung dead to impact. Cloud9 setting up every play so well, and this is the pace P1 cannot keep up with.
Yeah, and Cloud9, I mean, it's been a while since we've been like, man, this is that innovative team, but Contractz pulling this out. One of the early adopters of the Ivern. You think back to when he first brought it out. It's like, why isn't this being played everywhere? And now you can see the Frost, Kayn. It's like Cloud9 definitely did their homework. And yeah, it doesn't matter, Sneaky can still hit that.
Yeah, just going to shoot it over the wall. Angle not quite there for Pirean to cut it off, and already taking another mid in here. Remember, they got Baron 2 minutes ago, so huge empowered pushes here for C9 as they're looking to take down this top inhibitor. That will be 2, and C9 already 12,000 gold ahead of Phoenix1.
And they just blew up Pirean.
Oh, goodbye.
I know, he got annihilated there. Jensen still has ultimate. You push here. You try to end the game if you're Cloud9.
Yeah, they're going to get caught up, knocked up by Kayn. Zeke flashing out of the way, barely escapes the onslaught. C9 still dancing around the base, looking to try and go straight for the Nexus.
I can't think of a better way to bounce back from an 0-2 week if you're Cloud9. You've got 2 Mountain Drakes, you've got 23 minutes on the clock, and you've already gotten the Baron once, and you've gotten 2 inhibitors down.
Well, C9 will demonstrate mercy to P1's Nexus for now.
Yeah, and there were some, speculations after Rift Rivals where it was like, oh, Cloud9 went 3-3 against the European teams. Phoenix1 4-2, only dropping games to Fnatic. People were starting to, whisper maybe Phoenix1 is going to go up in the standings and Cloud9 are going to go down. Well, they both went down after last week, and you can see here Cloud9 just as a team functioning, firing on all cylinders as well. It looks like Cloud9 kind of putting those doubts to rest.
And in general, it feels like this sort of competition is where we've seen Cloud9 be some of their most successful. A tank for impact, an aggressive jungler for Contractz, a super stable bottom lane, including a playmaker for Smoothie, and then the champion of champions for almost any mid laner, especially one as good as Jensen. Third Mountain Drake over to Cloud9, and they're looking to push and end this game.
Yeah, this is a disgusting lead right now. Like, Sneaky, just look at his item build, and you look across at what Arrow has. Arrow's an item and a half behind, a whole item and a half behind him. And it's kind of the similar story for most of the team right now, where Jensen's up an entire Void Staff at this point.
Just casually up about 3,000 gold as I do a quick eye test on those gold leads.
And now Contractz can kind of play loose right now with the Guardian Angel. If you go in and you die, Guardian Angel pops off, and then you go ahead and you use your ultimate, the Umbral Trespass, get a whole bunch of HP back, and you're ready to fight again. People can't really camp your body as much as most other champions.
Cloud9 again just going to wait for these super waves to tick up towards the Nexus of P1.
Oh, there's Maokai ulti.
Baron dipped
Zone in.
off. Another great siege tool here. Contractz tries to go in with Pirean, knocks him back with the wall, but not enough to cut off the rest of C9 who take down the turret. And even Sneaky does also have 3 items, so these Xpecials are eating so much damage. Pretty much whenever they walk near a member of Cloud9, and they impact again, flash route in onto MikeYeung to try and take him down. Contractz zips back forward as MikeYeung flashes to safety, but third and hit down, and this Nexus looking very vulnerable.
Yep. 25 minutes, 40 seconds. They're trying to go for the
Alrighty, turret going down. Contractz gonna dip it. Arrow gonna carry him into the fountain, but Contractz gets blown back into GA. Will be popped. Smoothie with a good on. The shockwave to follow. Just destroys P1. There's a triple kill, but Jensen might be chasing into the fountain for a few more. The fourth kill is gonna come. Jensen has a quadra.
Oh, dive. Impact is gonna do it.
They're gonna
try to go for it.
Back in there. The rest of the score goes in. Oh no, that was mistimed. Jensen might just wait for it. I think he's hoping Xpecial gifts it over, but the Nexus might die before they can complete it. It's gonna go down. Sneaky shuts it down by shooting the Nexus, but a win's a win. Penta be damned. Cloud9 win game 1.
Somebody hit the Nexus the last time someone on Cloud9 was close to a Penta. Revenge strikes, but yes, Cloud9 bouncing back from that 0-2 week last week.
Well, that's certainly a way to gain some momentum moving into a pretty critical weekend.
There's the music, exactly.
Ooh. My goodness.
It was so fast that it was even delayed in terms of having the victory alongside it. 26 minutes.
I think they were hoping the pentakill was happening, but Sneaky shoots the Nexus down instead. And we have a lot to talk about after 25-ish minutes of gameplay.
I feel like that was pretty clean cut, you know? Just Kayn, OP, played in solo queue, see it everywhere, start banning it, don't let anybody else play it.
We're just trying to get more free ladder points. I know you.
Well, I actually feel like the champion has a higher skill curve than pretty much other champions in the jungle right now that are being played, like the Maokai, the Cho'Gath. You can pick those up and have a very quick success rate with them, whereas Kayn requires a lot of coordination with your team, which I feel like he got a whole bunch of help in his jungle to help that early clear, which accelerates him doing what Kayn wants to do, which is have that early gank, snowball, and be in the enemy's jungler. So he was able to control quadrants of MikeYeung's jungle and make sure that he couldn't roam or even be a part of most things, because MikeYeung, up until that last moment, had all 3 of the team's kills because everybody's just getting slaughtered in their lanes.
That's certainly pretty much what happened, but for more on the premiere on our newest assassin, let's check back in with Dash and Mark.
Thank you very much, Pastry. Hot out of the gates for C9 here in a very dominant first game, moving to 1-0 within the series, but they were just talking about it. We had many of our new patch 714 things come in, most of which was Kayn here coming away with a victory against the Cho'Gath on the other side, receiving the loss.
Yeah, it was a great game to just highlight some of the changes overall. I mean, you can include the Jhin and the Kha'Zix showing off the lethality, the Cho'Gath, like you said, Kayn, all 3 of our main bullet points getting hit early on here. And the thing that I really like is just how confident they were with that team comp. They flex the Maokai around. That ends up going top. You have a Kayn in the jungle. That was great. I mean, kind of the same thing with Cho'Gath. It can be flexed as well. So both teams kind of highlighting some of the advantages of these tanks that are so strong in the jungle is that you can also put them top lane. I was talking to Jad a little bit before, and he was saying, why aren't there more tanks in the top lane? Because you just have more gold available there, and then you become even tankier faster.
Well, of course, we saw this time Phoenix1 decides to take that Cho'Gath to the top lane. Doesn't work out, but in large part because of what Contractz was able to do on Kayn, right? Didn't give Zig an opportunity to breathe in that top lane with his early jungle pathing.
You're right, and that's the big thing to point out, because Kayn is a champion that has some similarities a little bit to Rek'Sai when you look at the unique options that you can go for with it. So he's able to get his first professional victory using one of those super leashes down in the jungle. So this is such a strong path in general. I think it's something that probably should be looked at a little bit, because from here he can go mid, bot, and top. As he ends up going top, he easily could have done Krugs for the 3 and go for a bottom when everyone else is still level 1 in the bot lane. Could have gone for, if he has XP quinch, you go for Scuttle Crab and you go kill mid lane. Here, just goes for the blue buff. He runs up top side, has good gank setup, because that's something.
2 minutes and 30 seconds. He's arriving at this Tribe Rush at level 3. Impact just hit level 2. He just dinged level 2 in that moment.
Just dinged level 2. They probably knew that Contractz are on the bot side, so how do you play against this as a top laner? It's so difficult to do, and like we were saying, they do lack a little bit of a setup for the Kayn, or excuse me, Kayn lacks a little bit of his own setup compared to Rek'Sai, who, if they tunnel over, there you go, there's the kill. But as long as you have some setup from the laners, he has that excellent mobility to get over that wall. He can come from very unique angles and finds a kill there early on, which is a great matchup to find that kill.
Right.
Because Cho'Gath probably does win that 1v1, and then he just continues to exploit that.
And when we talk about gank pads, there again, we already see him going over that blue wall. It's very hard to ward against a champion that has the ability to make his way to your lane in, 4, 5, 6 different ways. You just don't have the potential to cover all of those entrances this early on into the game.
And then you see some of the nice diving mechanics out of Contractz there. Sees Xpecial charge, setting a tornado to try and knock him up. Just hop inside the body.
Right.
Makes you safe under the turret, as well as you can use it to dodge out on skill shots. So you're pretty much, just kind of riding along, waiting until you can finally kill them.
And what I think is very interesting here is that this is an example of a C9 game where they don't go mid over and over and over again. We saw last week they chose to go top, chose to go bottom, and they suffered for it. This time around, Jensen in the 1v1, doing work, still building his CS lead as you would expect, but this time around, the Kayn being ultra successful in both side lanes, getting them leads.
I think that's the big thing to note the difference between this series and the Envy series so far is that in the Envy series, despite successfully going top and bottom a couple times, they didn't actually snowball it. Here, Pirean was a little bit weaker in the mid lane. Jensen was still winning that 1v1 pretty convincingly and drawing MikeYeung to him repeatedly. So it was a situation where eventually C9's bot lane came up mid. They had that grouped up turret push when they were able to use the Rift Herald.
Yep.
And they still kind of keyed off Jensen a little bit, though it was Contractz who got the side lanes going.
Yeah, and as well, impact on Maokai, right? We talk all about these new fancy champions, 714. Well, Maokai just as a tank and as Impact plays it, incredibly, incredibly useful. We see here him on an engaged tank where he can make split-second decisions. Sure, they only get one kill. This sets them up, though, to invade red side, pick up 2 more, and a Baron off the back end of this. I love giving Impact the power to make team fight decisions.
That's something that hopefully C9 can kind of crutch onto here is the fact that there's so many tanks coming back into the top side as well. You see the Maokai here. They can potentially get their hands on the Cho'Gath. Maybe he doesn't play it quite yet, but can learn it. And just giving him the ability to be the guy to say, we're going now. That's exactly what Maokai was always known for, and he's kind of back on his staple champion here.
I think, again, the question remains with Cloud9, consistency. Can they find it, right? If this is the winning formula for them in terms of a team comp, how many tanks does Impact have available to him? Because, hey, again, if Maokai hits the ban list, how do they build a similar style comp which enables them to make the same plays without that champion available to them?
It is a little scary because there's still a fair amount of bruises up in the top lane. I'm sure you'll still see things like you said, like Jarvan is extremely strong, stuff like that. He does play Gnar, which is good for the most part. That's kind of when he made his kind of return to dominance in the 2016 Gauntlet run that he had, was with that champion. But, potentially moving on to blue side here for P1, they can start banning that out. They can try and take away some of that control that Impact had once he got that stabilization out from Contractz.
I mean, it's very interesting, again, spotlight on that jungler matchup. As Irene mentioned, that the first 3 kills for Phoenix1 did go over to MikeYeung. It's not like he wasn't making attempts at turning the game, right? You mentioned he went into the mid lane consistently, so not choosing to match the pressure of Contractz and try and create advantages elsewhere. He didn't do enough, though.
It was one of those situations where the kills are more like cleanup kills where, oh my god, Jensen's going aggressive mid and almost killed my mid laner, and I was able to finish him off, but you're not pushed up. You don't have the minion waves in your favor.
So nothing comes after.
You can't transition it into anything. It's a nice kill, but you can't do much. Where on the flip side, you look at the plays that Contractz is making. He's diving your bot lane, killing them, and taking a turret. It's just, even though you're both getting kills, it's not quite equal.
Right, exactly. Yeah, both good plays.
For sure.
Both advantages, one just much greater than the other. Player of the game going to Impact, though. So while Contractz did a lot of work, we have to acknowledge the fact that if he doesn't get a dope leash like that from both his bot lane as well as the Maokai leashing multiple camps with the saplings, as well as all of the engages that Impact was able to pull off once he got ahead and was that tanky Maokai, definitely propelled them to victory.
And there were a couple instances where he was just absorbing a lot of pressure during that initial turret trade, gave them the advantage, allowed them to grab Rift Herald, and it's one of those things that slowly over time snowballs into those big, big plays, and then finally you saw, like you said, that flash engage in the mid lane really opened up the rest of P1 to be taken apart.
P1 back on blue side here, champion select again. They decided to ban Zach Blitz Gragas, give away the Caitlyn, which Cloud9 saw as more valuable than the Cho'Gath, for example. Do you think a similar trade is going to be made, or what?
That's why I kind of shrugged as you started talking about this, because I knew where it was going. It's 7-14, James. I can't say for sure what to expect. I think priority lists are very you know, they're very flexible right now. No one knows exactly what they're doing. They're in flux. And so they're saying, okay, well, we're going to go for a trade. Caitlyn's strong. But at this point, there's enough things in the bot lanes that match it, because Kalista was unpicked, unbanned in this situation. That's one of the, you know, classic picks to take into this Caitlyn at this point. You take a playmaking support and you start ganking it. So they had options available. I have a hard time saying they shouldn't have left the Caitlyn up, but it's just so hard to identify. Like,
so
okay,
much for being the sharpest tool in the shed. All right, guy.
yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, when we come back, we got round 3 of Phoenix1 versus Cloud9. As we go to break, make sure to check out the newest tracks off of Pentakill 2 on pentakill.leagueoflegends.com.